Is Ryan, and today we're going to be looking at the examination and exploration of U.S. imported food data, an in-depth look at U.S. importation statistics of consumer foods and ingredients. Now, the U.S. food imports data is annually published and it regards the statistical value and volume of food imports coming into the United States. These statistics are provided by the United States Department of Agriculture. Today, our desired outcomes are to get some answers to the questions that were given. And those questions are: which food group did the U.S. spend the most money on importing in 2023? What are the top five food groups in terms of import percentage increases by volume over the last 10 years? And which country was the largest provider of chocolate in 2023? But before we get into that, there are some key terms that are going to pop out throughout the presentation that I want to address up front. If you see MT, that refers to a metric ton. An LITPF refers to a proof liter. It's used mostly for beverage statistics. And then obviously the USD refers to the United States dollar. And the food groups that we're going to be working with quickly are beverages, cocoa and chocolate, coffee, tea, and spices, dairy, fish and shellfish, fruits, grains, live meat animals, meats, nuts, sugar and candy, vegetable oils, and vegetables. First question: which food group did the U.S. spend the most money on importing in 2023? We have a fairly straightforward chart to answer that question. We have a chart here that represents the U.S. imported food group value for 2023. And the values are going to be in billions of USD. And as you can see, we have them listed in descending order. So if you look up top, we have fruits at 27.65. Again, that's in $1 billion USD. So pretty straightforward answer. Now, the next question requires a little more analysis, and that question is: what are the top five food groups in terms of import percentage increases by volume over the last 10 years? So first, before we answer that, I quickly wanted to look at a volume graph, where our previous graph we looked at the value in USD. Here we are strictly looking at the volume imported in metric tons by those food groups listed previously. And obviously, to no surprise, fruits are going to be at the top. We also see vegetables, grains, beverages, live meats, and vegetable oils near the top in terms of volume over the last 10 years. But it will be interesting to see if those have had the same percentage increases over that same amount of time. So here we have a U.S. imported food group percentage change from 2014 to 2023. So every dot that you see represents an individual year, and it specifically represents the percent increase or decrease. As you can see here, we have 0% in the middle, representing the amount imported for each individual food group. So obviously, negative percentages means there was less imported than the year before. But as you can see, fairly consistent, but there are some outliers. And this will help us determine who had the greatest average increase over that time span. And so when you average all of those numbers together by the food group, you see that there are four food groups that had a substantial increase over the last 10 years. And then you have vegetable oils, which also had a sizable increase compared to the rest of the food groups. So the answer for this is that meats, dairy, vegetables, beverages, and vegetable oils have seen the greatest increase in imports by percentage over the last 10 years. The last question pertains to an individual food group, and it's asking which country was the largest provider of chocolate in 2020. Now, in order to figure that out, we actually have a heat map of the world. And if we zoom out, we can actually see kind of the locality of where the US is importing chocolate from. Um, and right off the bat, you can see Canada up here, Mexico highlighted, as well as a few European countries, but really nowhere else is the US importing chocolate. And if we see over here, the legend tells us that the import amount in millions of dollars, the it starts with the gold hue at the lower end and then the maroon at the high end. So if we start at the with the countries that are golden, we can see countries like Italy, Croatia, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, and Poland provide a sizable amount of the imports of chocolate to the US. But again, if we zoom out and we go back over here, we can see that even Mexico has a much larger portion, makes up a much larger portion of U.S. imports of chocolate at $598 million imported in 2023 alone. But again, that is nothing compared to Canada, where $1.9 billion worth of chocolate was imported, which is quite astounding. Um, but just to conceptualize that a little bit more, if we just look at a simple graph, we can see here uh, the European countries listed before. We can kind of see their value imported percentage, or not percentage, but the amount of money we spend importing chocolate from them versus how much money we spend importing chocolate from Mexico and Canada. Really gives you a much better idea of how much chocolate we are importing from Canada. So the answer to our final question is the U.S. imported $1.9 billion in chocolate from Canada in 2023. So this was an in-depth look at some of the more peculiar U.S. food importation statistics. This was to help gain some insights and provide the framework for future analysis for those who are interested. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this presentation. Thank you.